Hello, guys. Good morning. Nika here with your third daily neuro nugget of the day because I'm home with a fever, rosy fever, and with a coffee ready to discuss this ex United healthcare employee who is coming forward and blowing the whistle. She is blowing the whistle like she just opened a whole can of worms and she's very brave. So before we get started, I'm going to just remind everybody to be kind in the chat, be kind to each other, and be respectful. I know that this is a very touchy subject for a lot of people. And this woman who came forward, her name is Jenny, right? She actually was brave enough to start her own little channel. It's actually not a little channel because she has more subscribers than me. So congratulations, Jenny, right? I think that should be applauded when somebody does something so brave and comes forward, this ex-United healthcare employee and decides to blow the whistle on this quadruple billion dollar worth company. They United Healthcare, they have spent every year, they lobby, right? They are so invested heavily in politics. A lot of people said, well, there's a conflict of interest. And I'm like, that's not a conflict of interest. That should be illegal, right? They basically pay their way forward through politics. Uh, this year, I think they are giving, basically buying people for 7 billion. Last year they donated $10 billion. And what this ex United Healthcare employee said in her YouTube channel makes me sick to my stomach. But again, we have to be respectful. She's gotten so much hate, guys. She's gotten so much hate for being honest. We know that people don't like honest individuals, right? We know. And they're trying to turn this around and spin it so as if to try to place blame on Jenny. I think she's in her 60s. Let me see. Let me set you down here. They don't fall. Let me see if I can find the name of her YouTube channel, guys. She has done a couple of interviews. The one I watched just now was with Status Coop News. I've never heard of him, by the way. This interviewer is amazing. It's amazing. Um, he seems to be very good at doing his own independent reporting, right? We know that people who are doing these critical stories focusing on exposing the predatory profit for this healthcare system are getting a lot of hate. And I've noticed that every video that I've made regarding this topic is getting demonetized and it's getting very little views. Of course, we know how the algorithm works, right? Uh, they can basically type in a word such as Luigi or movement or United CEO or healthcare, and that will change the algorithm so that these types of videos don't get views, guys. This is how it works. They control everything that is coming out of our mouths, basically, right? But we're here to talk about the truth, talk about these things that nobody wants to talk about, and I'm going to cover some of the things, very concerning things that, in my opinion, should be freaking illegal, right? Where is her channel? Let's see. I will link her channel in the description below. That way, you guys can listen. I definitely want you guys to go listen to her own personal story of everything that she saw and experienced when she used to work for United Healthcare. And like I said, be kind to her because she's gotten so much hate. People are telling her that she has blood on her hands because she used to work for the company. I'm like, hello, here we are again hating each other, right? We're supposed to be turning and hating on these people who get to choose who lives and dies, right? And then they make money on people that die. That's what we're supposed to be upset at. Like, you're upset at the wrong person. You should be thankful she's coming forward and opening up horrific can of worms, because it's just going to blow a lot of your guys' minds, especially if you're younger and you have no idea what health insurance is. Maybe you haven't had to really use it. Maybe you haven't had a family member yet to go through a horrible experience. I've had some younger people telling me that, their fathers or mothers had health issues, and well, United covered everything for me. It's like, okay, that's great. I'm happy for you. But you have to understand that this lashback coming from like 99% of Americans is happening for a reason. I'm great that it didn't happen to you. Cool story, bro. But that doesn't mean that a shit ton of other people are or have not suffered in the past, right? Due to companies like United using robots, using AI to decide who lives or dies. So Jenny is in her 60s, I believe. And one of the stories that she mentioned, guys, was a hermaphrodite, right? So if you don't know what a hermaphrodite is, it's a child who's born with both male and female organs. So this isn't like M to F or female to male. It's not that transitioning step. It's not by choice. They are born this way, right? When the child is getting ready to start puberty, they kind of have to choose like which one do you want to be, because you have to basically take care of one of your extra organs, right? We have to, and can you imagine being a 14-year-old hermaphrodite who is already struggling? Like, puberty is hard enough, right? Puberty is hard enough. And then on top of that, United Healthcare is going to be like, yeah, we're not going to cover that. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. Um, that's gonna take a toll, like on them for the rest of their life, because that's not a cheap surgery, right? Why are we giving companies like United the ability to decide what surgery is covered, what surgery is not covered? Why are we allowing them to do that, right? And again, this is not me promoting Luigi. That's not what I want to do. But what he did do, and what this ex-employee, what they're doing is opening up this can of worms and starting a movement. Okay, there's no way to stop it now. Doesn't matter how much they try to uh, quiet people. In fact, when I'm watching Jenny talk I think she's in her vehicle, right? I'm gonna move, guys. She's in her vehicle, like. Let me grab my coffee. She's recording from her vehicle. She, to me, looks very nervous. And she mentioned in the other interview that she did at Status Coop that she has anxiety because she's getting so much hate from a lot of people, right? Getting a lot of hate. So, yeah, coming forward, like talking smack about these massive companies, is not an easy thing to do. So, yeah, I think we should be applauding her. Why? Because what has happened lately, guys? I'm sorry, I'm trying to adjust. What has happened lately? It seems that we lie, well, not me and you, we people, like we as the large companies, right? They love to disappear whistleblowers. Yeah, so many whistleblowers came forward and have talked about health insurance scams before, or fraud before, and they've been disappeared. A lot of people have come forward and talked about other scams, right? As well. Wasn't there just a student that was found alive? What about the airplane company whistleblowers? Wasn't there like three of them that were basically Epstein? Oh no, no, he totally like he wasn't Epstein, Mika. He was just, you know. He did it to himself, 10 bullets to the head. Hmm. Uh-huh. And then on top of that, we have um, platforms such as this one, where every time we talk about certain words, key words, these videos are not getting promoted. They don't want us to talk about this. That's why I'm talking about it. Okay, that's why I'm talking about it. She also went on to say that there was, I'm sure she has thousands of stories. I would love to talk to her, to interview her in person. There was somebody who needed a scan for cancer, right? To rule out that it wasn't cancer or that it was cancer. And they were denied the scan. So how are you supposed to know if it's cancer, if it's not cancer? So then not only did United willingly deny this scan, but then they also denied all the treatment that this person needed for cancer. So they're like, yeah, we're just not going to do anything. And again, look, if you have United Healthcare as an insurance and you have never had any issues, cool. The sound is not great. Thank you, hoppers. Let's see if I can, maybe it's because my phone is leaning here. Hey, how's it now? Um, I have like the jankiest setup. Can you please tell me how the sound is now? Let's see here. Mr. Hi-Fi in the chat. First by accident. Hi. Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon. Sean, Mr. Hi-Fi is here. Hopper is here. Hi. Hopper, can you tell me if the sound is better now, please? How does it sound? Hopefully it's better. But this woman is coming forward and getting threats, and she is anxious and she cannot sleep. Not only that, she basically said that, look, love it, sound shit. Still, how you set it moved on the audio. Oh my god. Let's see. I didn't really change anything. Hey, there's a doggy outside. Well, we'll figure it out. Hopefully it'll be fine. I'll listen to it later. Um, but this woman, right, comes out and says, "Yeah, we were kind of forced to like deny almost everything, and we had so many complaints from doctors, from clinics, because we weren't covering anything. Like, how are the patients going to get treated? And of course, doctors aren't going to do that work for free, right? Because they need to feed their families also. Um, let's see if I can pull this up here. So she says that while she worked for United Healthcare, guys, humans that work for these multi-billion corporations are still humans, right? I'm telling you, as somebody who's worked in healthcare, in laboratory, in research for like almost 30 years. Yeah, almost 30 years, right? A lot of us join healthcare because we want to make a difference, right? We're like, I could help sick people. I could help them. I could make them feel better. I can make their day. I want to take care of them. And then, just like this whistleblower said, you spend more time in healthcare and you realize most of it is a crop of shit, right? There's a lot of good people that work in healthcare because they truly do care about humans. But once you start getting to the top, we have a lot of predatory behavior, including behavior like Brian Thompson was showing, right? The CEO, who in their right mind decides that they want to implement AI, a machine learning, a robot basically, to decide if people get to live or not live. That could be your grandma, that could be my grandma, that could be our sons and daughters. It's a problem. And when we are working in healthcare, it becomes overwhelming. She talks about how she was the supervisor at one point, and eventually it gets to be so bad that she has only 5 people working to answer all these calls. Can you imagine working in that field? That would be so stressful. It would be overwhelming. You only have 5 people to answer calls. This is why we have people like Luigi allegedly saying delay, right? Because we know that's a huge part of this delay. Insurances love to delay healthcare. They love to delay. They love to waste time. And part of this delay process, if you've ever been with an insurance on the phone, I don't know about you, maybe you've never had any issues, but I've been on the phone sometimes 45 minutes to an hour 30 trying to get a hold of a human being. And after this interview came out with Jenny, it's like, oh, it's because you guys have 5 people picking up hundreds of thousands of calls. It kind of makes sense now. Is that frustrating? Yeah, it is for both parties, right? That would be frustrating as somebody who's trying to get healthcare coverage and is on the phone for a couple of hours just to solve a basic issue. But it would also be frustrating for people who work in that field because you are understaffed, you are overstressed. She said that they were working long shifts and weekends. That's a lot to handle. And I don't know what years this lady worked at, but again, I think she's at least in her 60s, right? Her channel says like I'm 63, so I'm assuming she's 63 years old. Hey, she's no spring chicken. Like having to pick up these phone calls, that's a lot of stress. And the stress eventually, when you are an empath, when you care for humanity, guess what? It's going to take a toll on you. Okay? Most people who work in healthcare are empathic. They care about people, unlike those CEOs, which statistically score extremely high in sociopathic, psychopathic traits. That's a statistic. That's a fact. But when you're working at the bottom, when you're having to deal with other workers and the people, aka patients, aka clients, it gets to be a little too much. Why do you think that so many nurses and doctors and lab scientists and research scientists have quit just the last few years? Because they are overworked, overstressed, underpaid, underslept. Jenny says that in her experience, when she was working there, she was in fact so stressed that she started to drink heavily. She said she was never a drinker. And after so much stress of doing that job, having to pick up so many phone calls, having to deny so many claims of people that needed it, people that were begging on the phone sometimes, dying, and you can't do anything because that's outside of your control. Yeah, it's going to take its toll on you. She said that she couldn't wait for Friday. She's like, I just couldn't wait. I needed to just get my drink. I needed to get my drinking because why? Because that's what people do when they're stressed. They turn to substances usually, right? So it's crazy. And then to top it off, we have people like the new CEO of United Health Group, which is like the parent company, was praising Brian Thompson as a hero of the healthcare industry. They're like, he's amazing, he's amazing. Let me just pull up what he said on an interview. This CEO, and people have gotten very upset, guys. They're like, this is extremely tone deaf. Like this can't be the first thing that you should say to the public. Obviously, 99% of Americans are very angry. And here we have this CEO coming forward and saying things like, nobody, there was nobody who did more and tried to advance the mission more than Brian Thompson. And there are very few people in the history of the US healthcare industry who had a bigger positive effect on American healthcare than Brian Thompson. I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, what? Is this for real? Is this the first thing this guy's going to come forward and say? That we're going to make sure that we not only acknowledge and honor that legacy of Brian, but we'll continue in our role, it's a critical role, and we make sure that care is safe and appropriate and is delivered when people need it, and we guard against the pressures that exist for unsafe care or for unnecessary care to be delivered. No, no, honey. No, you don't get to say this, right? Right? You don't get to say this. You don't get to come out here. Now, Americans, we all have our basically what we're ready, right? We're ready. And then this guy comes forward. We're angry. We are awake because of Luigi woke us all into consciousness. And then this guy's like, yeah, Brian Thompson was the best. He was amazing. What he did was right. And we're going to continue to do that. We're going to follow that legacy. You're going to continue to do that? You're going to continue to make sure that there's no unsafe or unnecessary care? Who are you to tell us what is unsafe and unnecessary? We're paying you our hard earned dollars. You don't get to tell us. In my opinion, that should not be in the hands of people like this man here, saying that Brian Thompson's legacy is the shit and that he's amazing, that, this is necessary care. We don't need it. We don't need that care. Sorry, sir. I think that's up to me and to my doctor to decide that, not for you. So instead of these CEOs saying things like, "Oh yeah, maybe maybe we should be a little bit introspective. Maybe we should look inward and try to fix the solution because obviously there's a problem here, right? Our predatory behavior is a problem." No, instead this guy comes forward and says this shit, and then they expect us to not be angry. Yeah, we're gonna continue to deny claims. That's what he's literally saying in plain English. That's how I'm taking it. Unnecessary care. That just it just it just irks me, right? So this video is for Jenny. I just really wanted to put her name out there. Again, she is the whistleblower, and from what we've seen with a lot of the whistleblowers in America, they end up getting Epstein, or like they're like, oh my God, she put 10 bullets in her brain. No, we need to make sure that Jenny stays safe. Please, please, people, keep this woman safe. And I'm going to link her channel in the description. Um, Her channel is so much bigger than mine already that quickly. And that's great, right? We should support and protect these whistleblowers. It takes a very courageous person to do something like that, to actually have the courage to come forward. And a reminder, this is also a video for those people who were denied healthcare. This is a rest in peace to all of you because you should have been given healthcare, right? Um, and because United Healthcare is one of the largest, most profitable healthcare companies out there, and because they acted like the judge and executioner of people's lives, yeah, we should be making a big deal about this, right? And don't take your hate out on people like Jenny, people like me who worked in healthcare or in a research setting. We have no power. We have no power. The only power that we have is talking about our personal experiences like she is doing, and maybe leaving the company and getting a job that is less terrible, less depressing, maybe a job where one doesn't have to enforce cruel policies, But not everybody can just give up their job, right? A lot of us have families to feed, people to take care of. So stop pointing the finger at people like Jenny, at whistleblowers that have worked for these companies. You have to be worried about the people at the top. That's who you have to worry about, right? It's just very hard for for me to have sympathy for these like mafioso bosses of healthcare because I have worked with so many sick people in almost 30 years of working in healthcare, guys, and I've seen horrific things, just people getting denied left and right when they needed the treatment, right? Um, and a little quote I wanted to share with you guys. I know this video is definitely not going to get views because we know again the algorithm doesn't like to promote it. So if you are in here now, make sure you give it a like. But this quote um, by JFK, right? Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. What do you think about that quote? I'm not promoting violence, by the way. It's just interesting how things have turned out, right? So I'm glad that they didn't silence her. I appreciate that she spoke out. I think this is our country's collective ignored trauma, right? When you when you suppress that trauma, eventually it's gonna come out, and it usually doesn't come out in a non-violent fashion. Um, and I think it's also a way for Jenny to make amends, right? When you feel yourself like you have worked for a demonic company who doesn't give a damn about Americans, that's a decent way of making amends, right? She can at least come forward and say, "Look, this is what I saw. This is what I experienced," right? So it was very refreshing to see her do that. So give it up for Jenny. If you have watched any of the videos by Jenny, let me know in the comments. Um, I'm not sure if the chat is working or if the sound is still acting crazy. Keep this woman safe, protect her. Oh, and I also wanted to share before I go here. I wanted to share a couple of comments that I saw from people. This was interesting, right? I had a condition that needed a CT scan to rule out a brain tumor. Denied 3 times. Finally, my doctor did a test, hinting I should react appropriately so the scan could be scheduled. So I am a case that highlights how healthcare does not work. And this is United Healthcare. It doesn't impress me, honestly. Delay, deny, depose. You people are next. Brianna Boston said it and went to jail. The insurance companies actually do it and get rich. WTF. Luigi represents the voice of public anger and frustration with unchecked corporate powers. Americans feel this on a daily basis while politicians help navigate their ships of piracy. This isn't free market capitalism. It's government for and by the corporation, which is probably why they donated $10 billion last year, right? Clearly, Luigi was motivated to send a message. While most condemn such acts of violence, public reaction to this assassination shows solidarity with the cause, whether you think it's justified or not. It's brought attention and sharp criticism of the men behind the executive curtain. Now they're living in fear of this being the turning point or open rebellion against the greed and moral injustice of our corporate care system. Their PR messaging is willfully blind to the public surface in the name of profit. And we know that it is right. We know that they are willfully blind to public suffering because what did I just read? This United Health Group CEO saying we're going to continue to deny claims, except he said it in a way to soothe your ears, right? He said we're going to continue to uh, turn down unnecessary care. And Brian Thompson leaves a great legacy, right? And we know that these CEOs across the globe are freaking out. They are spending their money. You know where they're spending their money? They're spending their money on security. Oh, I need better security now because people, Americans, are losing their minds. Why don't you just turn that energy, turn that money into helping the people, right? Into helping Americans. No, that's too much work. That's too much work. Nonetheless, I'm done with my rant. I just wanted to get on here because I just saw this video, guys, of Jenny. Please support her. Like I said, I'm going to leave her channel in the comments down or in the description below. So thank you guys for joining me in the chat. I don't know what's going on with the chat. It doesn't seem to be working on my end. Either way, guys, have a wonderful day. This is probably the last video I will make